D-Day. What was it?
The Long War.
What do you know about it? What? Gabe, what do you know about D-Day?
Isn't it when like the Americans were coming into, I think like a beach during World War II? I think it was France territory
Yep.
to retake France.
Right. June 6th, 1944 was the largest, the most massive amphibious invasion in all of history. Okay, the Allies, specifically the Americans, the British, and the Canadians, attacked 5 beachheads in Normandy, France. Okay? You could put up the pictures if you want, whenever you're ready.
Jay.
No worries.
Today's
What? What?
What is the lesson?
What's the title?
Well, Alicia's going to eventually put it up. So, France, as Gabe said, France had been overtaken and conquered by the evil Nazis a few years prior to this. And so basically they needed rescuing. And on D-Day, around between 160 to 180,000 Allied troops invaded Normandy, France, and they attacked the Nazis on D-Day. They had over 5,000 ships and landing craft and over 11,000 planes, aircraft in this attack. It was a massive invasion, okay? Maybe we don't have pictures.
Just wait 1 second, please.
Hey, there's some pictures with a box in the middle. There you go. So this is kind of the aftermath. This isn't right in the middle of the invasion, but this is, okay? Both of my grandfathers were there on D-Day. So the whole point of that is to just share with you guys this huge invasion, biggest amphibious invasion in all of history. There's a lot of really important parallels between D-Day and what we're studying tonight. So we're going to look at a little portion of the Christmas story in Matthew 2. Yes, I know it's January and Christmas is past, but there's a point to this, okay? I want you guys to look at this story from a different perspective than maybe you've ever looked at it before, okay? And that is from this perspective that there were spiritual forces at work in the world, and in this story there is a spiritual war that is raging, okay? So with that being said, let's read it. Could I get Sarah, will you read verses 1 through 5, and then Evan, will you read verses 6 through 12? And David Ray, will you please read verses 13 through 16? Nice and loud.
Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea during the reign of King Herod. About that time, some wise men from eastern lands arrived in Jerusalem, asking, "Where is the newborn King of the Jews? We saw his star as it rose, and we have come to worship him." King Herod was deeply disturbed when he heard this, as was everyone in Jerusalem. He called a meeting of the leading priests and teachers of religious law and asked, "Where is the Messiah supposed to be born? In Bethlehem in Judea?" they asked, for this was what the prophet wrote.
"And you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. Because out of you will come a ruler who will be my shepherd for the people of Israel." When Herod secretly summoned the wise men and asked them the exact time the star appeared, he sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go search carefully for the child. When you find him, report back to me so that I can too go and worship him." After hearing the king, they went on their way, and there it was, the star they had seen at its rising. It led them until it came and stopped above the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were overwhelmed with joy. Entering the house, they saw the child, Mary, and Mary his mother, and they fell to their knees. They worshipped him. Then they opened gifts, their treasures, and presented them with the gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And being warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned to their own country by another way.
Now when they had departed, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise, take the young child and his mother, flee to Egypt, and stay there until I bring you word. For Herod will seek the young child to destroy him. When he arose, he took the young child and his mother by night and departed for Egypt, and was there until the death of Herod, that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by the Lord through the prophet, saying, Out of Egypt I call my son. Then Herod, when he saw that he was deceived by the wise men, was exceedingly angry, and he sent forth and put to death all the male children who were in Bethlehem, and in all its districts, from 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had determined from the wise men.
Okay, thank you. Can you guys see the spiritual war here? Here's the first point for tonight. If you want to put it up on the screen, guys. The coming of Jesus into this world was, in many ways, an invasion. We sing, or sang a month ago, like it was a silent night and all this calm and all this peace. And to some extent, that was true. But in reality, it was a powerful invasion. Okay, I want you to think about that. When Jesus was born, this world was engulfed in darkness, right? Right?
Yeah.
By the spiritual forces of darkness and evil. And God was invading this dark world with the light. Jesus, the light of the world, to rescue those who were enslaved from the one who had enslaved them. Okay, do you guys see the connection? See kind of a similarity, right? With something like D-Day, this massive invasion to rescue a people who had been occupied by an evil group. So in many ways, guys, the night of Jesus' birth was like D-Day, this massive invasion. And Satan knew that. He hated it. And right from the start, you guys can see he's trying to counterattack, right? Who does he use to try to thwart God's invasion? Herod, right? And certainly Herod had free will in this, and he was certainly doing his own thing here. But no doubt you can see the effort of Satan to destroy God's work by trying to kill Jesus when he was just a baby. Guys, this spiritual war was real at the birth of Jesus. And here's the thing. My point in bringing that up is just to say we are still in that war against the spiritual forces of evil. And so I have a question for you to ponder tonight. Have you lost sight of that? Or are you living with that awareness daily? I want you to think about that, okay? How many of you guys recognize and realize that we are in a spiritual war? What we just celebrated, Christmas time and New Year's, there's a lot of busyness, there's a lot of focus on getting gifts for people and decorating and doing all of this stuff during Christmas time. All of that's awesome. It's great. And then with New Year's and then planning, getting ready to go back to school and going on vacation maybe, or all these different things, we can very easily lose sight of something extremely important, and that is that we're in a war. Can anyone relate to that? So that question, have you lost sight of that reality, that we are in a spiritual war, or have you been living with that awareness daily? See, we are all part of this war. Whether you realize it or not, every single one of us are part of that war. And I'm going to tell you that there's one of 4 possible roles that you are playing in this war. Okay? There's one of 4 possible roles that you're playing in this war. The first possibility, and if you're taking notes, it's up on the screen, is the first possible role is that you are a soldier fighting on God's side. and you are, man, you're focused, you're engaged in the warfare. Not a perfect soldier, because none of us are, but you are striving to fight in the Lord's army, to fight against the forces of evil. You're actively engaged in the warfare. The second possibility is that you are also a soldier, but on the wrong side. You're a soldier fighting against God's side and for the enemy. That would be someone who says, I don't believe in God, I want anything to do with him, and you're following and pursuing something that directly conflicts with God and his plan and his gospel. The third possibility is that you are a POW. You guys know what a POW is? Prisoner of war. You've been taken captive by the enemy. You've believed his lies. And you have become his captive. And the scary thing is you may not even realize it. Most people don't. The fourth possibility is that you are a soldier on God's side, but you are standing complacently on the sidelines, doing nothing. You're not in the fight. You're not engaged in the battle. Instead, you're on the sidelines, you're distracted. And you're wasting your life, and you're wasting your time with meaningless things that really are serving no purpose in furthering and advancing God's kingdom. You're doing nothing to make yourself a stronger soldier in this war. You're doing nothing to actively take part in destroying the enemy's works. You're distracted. And here's the thing, guys. It's not just sinful things that can distract us, right? Those are the obvious ones, right, that might be distracting us. Do you know that we could be distracted by things that aren't sinful in and of themselves? You guys realize that? What are some things that we can be distracted by that are distracting us from the fact that we're in a war that aren't sinful in and of themselves? Yeah.
Like social media.
Okay, social media, yeah. It can be used for evil, but yeah, in general, it can be used for good. So yeah, we can just get totally distracted by that, for sure. What else?
School.
School. Is school bad?
Yes.
School's good, but we can be so focused on it that we lose sight of something even more important than school. And that is that we're in a war. Good, what else? Sports. You guys, any athletes in here? I love sports. Played sports my whole life. Love watching sports, but playing it even more. And yeah, that can become a distraction for sure. What else? Hayden?
Holidays.
Holidays, yep. Nothing wrong with holidays, but they can obviously take our attention away from it if we give too much devotion to it. Grace?
I was gonna say politics.
Yeah, 100%. Politics, for sure. There's all kinds of things that are not bad in and of themselves, right? But that can become distractions to us. To where, guys, we forget that we're even in a war and we're just on the sidelines. And when that happens, guys, when we become complacent, lazy, distracted, and just standing on the sidelines, guess what? Here's the next point if you want to put it up. You are no threat to the enemy there. Correct? In fact, guys, here's a scary reality. He has you right where he wants you. You're helping him, really. Giving him exactly what he wants. So I want you to think tonight and take this question home with you and ponder it. What are some things that may not be sinful but have been distracting you from the battle? Maybe for some of you, there's nothing. But for some of us, or maybe all of us, maybe there's some things that they're not bad in and of themselves, but we just let ourselves be distracted by those things. We've given too much of our devotion and our attention to them to where we've forgotten that we're in the middle of a war. And then we obviously have things that are sinful, that serve as distractions in this war. And guys, here's a really important point. It's not up on the screen, but I want you to write this down. Sin poisons us. I want you to go back to this. Think of the physical aspect of warfare. It would be pretty effective if you could get your enemy in a war to like eat food or drink water that was poisoned, right? Because then are they going to be able to perform effectively as soldiers in warfare? No way. This has been done throughout history. In ancient warfare, you have the Scythians. They poisoned different wells when the Persians came in the 500s BC. King Darius and others, as the Persians are coming through, and shortly, right around the time of Daniel, actually, the Persians are going through, and the Scythians were poisoning wells so that as the Persians came through, they didn't know, and they started drinking the water, and then just like, boom. Very effective. In the year 1495, you have the Spaniards. They tricked their French enemies, the French army, by leaving wine around for them to drink. But the French didn't realize what the Spaniards had done is they had mixed the wine with blood that came from people that were lepers. And so they're drinking it, and they were effective in poisoning their enemies. Guys, a very effective way to put your enemy out of the fight is trick him into eating or drinking something that has poison in it. If our soldiers in World War II, if they ate poison that the enemy had snuck into their camp, do you think that they'd be able to fight effectively? No, they'd be out of the fight, right? They'd either be dead or so sick that they would be useless. Do you get the point? See the spiritual application? Guys, what poisons us? What poisons us? Sin. And guess who knows that? Our enemy. No wonder he's working to try to tempt us and lure us toward sin. Because if he can get us to drink the poison of sin, that damages our relationship with the Lord, our captain, the one who gives us the strength to fight. It damages our relationship with others. It damages us as a soldier, as a Christian, and it just puts us out of the fight. It makes us ineffective. Especially if he can poison us and we not even think it's a big deal. When we start justifying our sin and act like it's okay. Guys, you might be a soldier on God's side, but on the sidelines, giving in to sinful things that you know are wrong. Whether it be something like smoking this, or drinking that, or doing things, or talking about things with your friends that you shouldn't be. Or maybe you're keeping company with people that you have no business being around. Because when you're around them, you end up headed down a dangerous road towards sin. You become like the company you keep. There's a whole lot that Proverbs and the Word of God says about the company you keep. It could be being sexually impure with your body, with your thoughts, with your eyes. It's like the enemy is offering you poison, aka sin, and you're taking it, indulging in it, whatever that sin might be, and it is sucking the life out of you, poisoning you, making you ineffective and weak as a soldier. And guys, when we give in to those sinful, poisonous things, we're falling right into his trap, doing exactly what he wants. Satan will use anything he can to distract, to hinder, to paralyze you in this war, and to make you ineffective. Do you guys realize that? Here's another important point. I've told you guys this many times over the years. If you give the enemy an inch, he'll take a mile. If you give the enemy an inch, he will take a mile. And here's another thing to write down that's not up on the screen. Another thing I've told you guys many, many times. Small compromises always lead to greater ones. Think about that. You make one little compromise with sin here. Oh, it won't really affect me. Even though God said it would. But hey, what does God know? One little compromise over here. It's not going to stop there. Small compromises always lead to greater ones. Guys, this spiritual battle is raging all around us. Do you recognize that? Or have you lost sight of that? Satan wants you to lose sight of it. I want you to think about something, okay? Think of it just in warfare in general. I mean, it almost sounds stupid when you think of it in physical warfare. But guys, one of the most effective ways to defeat your enemy is to cause them to forget that you're even there. Right? I mean, that sounds so dumb, doesn't it? Like, who the heck would forget that their enemy's there? If you're in the middle of fighting a war and you forget that your enemy's there, like, you're done. But can you think of a more effective way? If you can convince your enemy that you're not even there, you totally have the advantage, right? And you might be thinking, well, who would do that in physical warfare? Maybe no one. But it happens all the time in the spiritual war, doesn't it? Do you think Satan has been effective amongst many Christians of causing us to forget that there's even an enemy out there? What do you guys think? Do you think he's been effective in causing us, feeding us so many distractions so that we just lose sight of the fact that we're in the middle of a war? You know, when I go to Ukraine, it's impossible pretty much to forget that you're in a country that, like, you're in a war zone. Because when I've been there, like, you'll hear missiles buzzing through the air. You'll hear explosions. You have the very physical presence of soldiers everywhere and barricades and soldiers that are missing limbs, or you can see their bodies that have been mangled by war. There's very visible signs, not to mention this last time almost getting kidnapped and conscripted into the Ukrainian military. But it's like, it's so obvious that you're in a war zone. And it's a helpful reminder that, like, man, guys, as real as all of that is, and as intense as that is, guys, the spiritual war that has been raging for all of time is so much more intense. So I want to challenge you tonight, as I challenge myself, examine yourself. Which of those 4 categories do you fit into? Soldier that's truly engaged in the warfare, fighting for the Lord's side? Are you a non-believer who doesn't want anything to do with God and you're actively fighting against him? 3, have you been taken captive by the enemy, by his lies? We just finished an apologetic series on Sundays, right? On worldviews. Question I ask you guys many times is, what and who are you allowing to shape your worldview? Every one of us has ways that we are allowing the culture and sinful worldly things to shape our worldview, that we need the Lord to renew our mind and change our heart. Have you been taken captive? Or fourth, are you a soldier that you're on the Lord's side, but you've just been on the sidelines? You've been distracted by many different things. I want you to think about something, guys. We're almost done. But you were born into a world at war. You weren't born into a world of like American Idol. You were born into a world of Saving Private Ryan. Maybe you guys don't know what that is. That's an epic war movie of the Allies, the Americans specifically attacking Normandy. And it's brutal. The beach is covered in red because we lost thousands of soldiers on D-Day. We took mass casualties in it. Last year, I got to actually go to Normandy and walk on those beaches, and it was a very humbling experience, knowing that men gave everything for my freedom, so that an evil dictator didn't dominate the world, and so that I could enjoy freedom. That's the world we were born into, guys. We were born into a Saving Private Ryan type of world, a world at war. We live on the front lines of a spiritual war that's raging all around us every day. And guys, we have a very real enemy who is trying to take us out. And I think with some of us, he's been effective. I hope that doesn't continue. But I just, I want to start off this year with mentioning this because we all need to remember that we're in a war. And we need to be ready to fight, right? One of my biggest purposes and goals as your pastor is I'm training you for war. That's not always a pretty thing. And I tell you maybe some things a lot of times that you guys don't like or that are really hard to hear, but there's a reason for it, guys. I'm training you for war. So what are you guys going to do with the year 2026? If God gives you this entire year to live through on this earth, none of us know, right? None of us are guaranteed tomorrow. But let's just say, if God gives you all of this year of 2026 to live through, you're in a battle. Remember, you're in a war zone. Are you going to live this year taking the battle seriously? Or are you going to allow yourself to be distracted by other things and forget that you're in a war? Daniel prayed at the end of worship. By the way, do you guys notice how those songs tonight are all about warfare? When I fight, I will fight on my knees. Guys, prayer is one of our most powerful weapons against Satan. And one of the least used, I think. Why? Well, Satan knows it's one of the most powerful weapons. So he'll do everything he can to convince us prayer doesn't work, God doesn't listen, it's too boring, I've got too many other things to do, I'll do it later. But Daniel mentioned something about, Lord, help us not to become stagnant. Here's a little nature lesson for you guys. If you're ever out hiking in the wilderness and you're thirsty and you don't have water, you know what kind of water you're supposed to get? Water that is moving, running water. You never go to a pool of water that is still. You know why? You know why?
Because like the bacteria is just sitting, and when it's moving, it's actually flowing out of the way.
That's That's right. Okay? When you have just a pool of water just sitting there, it becomes stagnant, and exactly like he said, you get bacteria. And man, what a picture of how we're not supposed to be, right? We're always supposed to be on the move for the Lord. Don't be stagnant, guys, because that's where the rot comes in, the poison, the complacency. So I actually saw a video today. I didn't think of it till Daniel was praying that we wouldn't be stagnant. Should have screen recorded it, but you guys would have freaked out. A lot of you girls especially. But I saw a video today of this guy up in the frigid cold of like Siberia or something. And he's walking around in this blizzard, and he picks up this husky that froze. He was just dead. Eyes were glazed over, and he was just stiff. You could just snap one of his legs off. He just picks him up and shows you this dog is frozen. It's dead. And you know why? The reason he said is that in those temperatures, you have to keep moving. Otherwise, you'll freeze and you'll die. You have to keep moving. And I thought, man, what a great picture for how we need to be, right? As soldiers in the Lord's army, we can't be stagnant. We can't be complacent on the sidelines doing nothing, because that's how we become easy targets. We have to constantly be moving. We have to constantly be fighting, because guess what? Is our enemy taking days off? Nope. We can't either. Amen? So guys, prayer is one of our most powerful weapons against the enemy, and that's how we're going to finish our time. If you want to end the video, we're going to end with, I want you guys to get into groups of 3 or 4 max, and you guys can go outside.